welcome everyone to the very special 20th Marrakech International Film Festival. My name is Nishan Mudli, I'm the director of the Sydney Film Festival, and it is my great privilege to host this conversation with the great actor, MADS MIKKELSEN. Winner of the Best Actor Award at Cannes for his amazing performance in The Hunt, the recipient of a tribute at this edition of the Marrakech Film Festival, an actor noted for his distinctiveness and versatility. Please join me in giving a very, very warm welcome to MADS MIKKELSEN. Welcome, MADS MIKKELSEN.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the tribute.
Thank you so much.
It's much deserved. And I must say that your speech was so gracious and so elegant, paying tribute to your heroes while accepting this special award. It was lovely.
Yeah, I mean, it was easy because those are three of my biggest heroes, and we turned out we had Marrakech in common. So it was nice to link it to the people that inspired me to become an actor.
Yeah, people you saw on screen when you were 18 years old.
Yeah.
That you met at the Marrakech Film Festival.
Yeah.
Scorsese, De
Scorsese,
Niro,
yeah.
William Dafoe.
Yeah, it was surreal. I never dreamt of being an actor when I was a kid or young. I was just watching films like everybody else and identifying with characters, not with the people being actors. So it's surreal 30 years later to be on the same stage as some of them.
And alongside the tribute, I think there's a wonderful moment at the festival because your latest film, which is a fantastic film, and I urge all of you to see it, The Promised Land, is playing as a gala here at the festival. Let's start with that, and we're going to look at a clip to begin with. Let's play the clip from The Promised Land, and we're playing from the very start of the film. In these few minutes, we get a strong sense of the character, but I'd like you to tell us about this character and Ludwig Kalen and your preparation for this role.
The character he's a very stubborn man. There's obviously a lot of drama going on that affects him, but he also creates a lot of drama. He has plenty of opportunities to go left, but he chooses to go right. So he's creating the film, he's creating the drama in the film. This is a very interesting period in Danish and European history. This is just 10 years before the Enlightenment, and none of these people were aware that it was just around the corner. So it was a tough time.
We see the character change a great deal through the film. As you say, he's very stubborn, and at the start of the film, emotionless, this hyper-focused striver. Yeah. But he gradually starts letting people in.
Yeah.
Tell us about this transformation of the character and how it makes the film so much more effective.
The transformation is small. This, again, is a different time in history. So my way of reacting to things in 2023 did not work with this character. There were places there were ranks, hierarchies, and so we had to stay true to those. So his development is very small and very gradual, but it's a little like the Buster Keaton smile. When it does happen, it opens the sky because you see it so rarely, right?
I think we should go back to the beginning, in a way, after we've seen this clip from your latest film. What drew you to the cinema and to acting in the first place? What were the first films you loved watching? What inspired you to take up acting? And you mentioned Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
Some of your early heroes, Buster Keaton and Bruce Lee.
Yeah, Buster Keaton and Bruce Lee. Buster Keaton I watched because he was on telly, you know. So we watched that, and I watched Charlie Chaplin as well, of course. Charlie Chaplin is a genius, the way he directed films, but watching the acting of the two of them, I kind of fell more in love with the way Buster Keaton did things. It was as if he was an open canvas, and we could we could put whatever we wanted onto that canvas and he would transform it, right? Later on, I can put words into it. When I was a kid, I was just fascinated with it and didn't put any words on it, of course. Bruce Lee the same, obviously, Flying Hong Kong Kung Fu, I was a fan of that. But also his charisma. So yeah, I grew up with a lot of different films, but I mean, like anybody in the 70s and 80s, films meant a lot to us. I was also a big collector of comic books. There was just a world you could escape into, and so I was like anybody else.
The first series of films that brought you to prominence, of course, was Nicholas Winding Refn's Pusher trilogy. Let's begin by having a look at the clip from the first Pusher. I know the second in the series is really your film, but I want to look at this clip, which introduces us to Tony.
Yeah, it's been 20 years since I've seen that. Yeah, that was the time.
Could you tell us how you ended up being cast as this very crass, unhinged, annoying, but also very funny character, Tony, in Pusher? And a bit about the experience of making this really rough and ready trilogy of films that have been so very influential.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholas, the director, he wanted to do this street film about the low-class drug environment of Copenhagen. And he didn't want any actors in his films. He wanted it to be real. And then some of the producers persuaded him that he at least needed 2, maybe 3 actors. And he couldn't find any, and then somebody had seen me. I was in drama school at that point, and they said, have a look at this guy. Nobody understands what he's saying. And then I did a casting, and he didn't understand a word I was saying, so I got the job. But I came from that area, so I fitted in to a degree. And there's a lot of rock and roll in the film. There's a lot of improvisation. There's definitely a script, but it was just the beginning of a new wave in Danish cinemas. People were starting to do the films that we grew up with, like Taxi Driver, but it's never been done before. So all of a sudden, people came out of drama schools, film schools, and had the same goal and mission. And he was one of them. And luckily, I hooked up with him for quite a few years.
And since the start, since Pusher, you've been in such a varied range of roles through your career. And we're going to go over the course of this talk into some of them in detail. But I wanted to ask, what guides you in choosing which films to do?
Well, the script is a major engine in this. I need to like it or find it fascinating or puzzling. There has to be something in the story that intrigues me. Secondly, the director. I have to be able to communicate with she or him. We don't have to agree, but we need to be able to communicate, because if that's not happening, it's going to be a long journey. So I would say the story, the director, and then thirdly comes the character, but it's less important than the other 2.
Let's go into one of these great roles of your career. It's of course in Thomas Vinterberg's The Hunt, in which a school teacher is accused of a terrible crime and has to endure the judgment and worse of a very paranoid community. Yeah. Let's look at one of the pivotal scenes of the film. Let's play the clip from The Hunt, please. It's really an electric performance.
Thanks.
It's a very complex and difficult role to play, Lucas. I think The Hunt, in a sense, predicts what happens more and more in society these days. A rush to prejudgment and lives frequently ruined as a consequence. Why were you determined to do this role? And what resonated for you in the film's message?
It was a very frustrating read. Exactly the same feeling like you have after seeing the film. You want to do something with your frustration and anger, but there's actually no one you can blame, because I understand his friend, I understand the people of the small town, I understand them all. So there's no one you can hit, and that is so frustrating for the audience and for this character, obviously. It was a brutal journey, it was a brutal film, but that doesn't mean it was super difficult, because the script was so good. So in many ways you can lean into that and accept that that's the way it's going. Sometimes when it looks difficult, it might be easy. The difficult things are the stories or the scenes that doesn't work. If it doesn't work, it's difficult. Yeah.
And this is a very stubborn character as well.
He becomes stubborn. I mean, yeah, maybe he is. But in the beginning, he's just naive in the sense that he didn't do anything. And obviously, the truth will come out. And then after running around believing in that for a couple of hours, he just stays firm on, no, I'm allowed to be in my city. These are my friends. This is my school. Yeah.
And does it end well for him, do you think?
Well, it does to a degree. The subject matter here, I don't know if everyone has seen the film. He's obviously accused of molesting a little child, which he didn't do, and there's no surprise in the film. We know that as an audience. So in a way, yes, there is a relief in the story. But had he been accused of robbing a bank, none of this would have happened. It's because it's a child. Everybody, the biggest fear is obviously that something happens to a kid. So the biggest love turns into the biggest fear and the biggest hate. So it would have been a very different situation if he was accused of anything else. Yeah.
Of course, the hunt resulted in the Best Actor prize in Cannes for you, which you, of course, deserved. In a career of many significant achievements, what did that mean for you, winning that Best Actor prize in Cannes?
Well, a lot. It's any award, any tap on the shoulder is a reminder that you're doing something right, or at least some people think you are, and so you can go another extra 10 miles. And Cannes is Cannes. It's obviously the biggest festival in the world, so I was super proud, and I accepted it on behalf of the film because I thoroughly believe that you cannot come up with a good performance unless you have a fantastic director. So that was dedicated to Thomas. Yeah.
You've been in some huge American films. Just to mention some: Doctor Strange, Rogue One, Fantastic Beasts. But also, you've had the privilege to play a Bond villain, the Schiff in Casino Royale. So we're going to have a look at a memorable clip from the film. It involves torture, so if you're sensitive, close your eyes. And a warning to you, Mads, it doesn't end well for you, this scene. Let's play the clip from Casino Royale.
Yeah. Before we get any questions, it's very funny that Mr. White, who comes in and shoots me in the forehead, he's a Danish actor, fantastic actor. I've known him for many years. I've never worked with him. That was the first scene I did with him. So we're standing there, Danish, English, and that's our very first thing in a James Bond film. That was funny. Yeah.
It's a great duo between you and Daniel Craig. I think you're fantastic in the film. In the lead up to the festival, when I mentioned to some of my friends that I was hosting this conversation with you, everyone was very impressed. But I noticed something, that you're a very beloved actor amongst art house fans, and that's my world. But at the same time, friends who are not at all interested in this world of art house films, mostly interested in mainstream films, are also huge fans of yours. They also love your work. And I think that's quite a rare and remarkable thing.
It's called playing on two horses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you've moved very successfully between Danish cinema and American cinema. Broadly speaking, in Danish cinema, you're often a hero. A complex hero, one not without flaws, but a hero nonetheless. And in American film and television, you're frequently a villain. Again, complex, but still fundamentally villainous.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's so? What's that difference about?
It's quite simple. It's the funny accent. But it is as simple as that. It used to be Germans, then it was Brits, then it was Russians, and for some reason they fall in love with a Danish accent. And so, it's definitely a part of it. And then if Americans see something they like, they have a tendency to try to copy it, right? But as you said, I've been lucky enough to done some different villains in different universes. There's a big difference between Marvel and James Bond. So I've been fortunate enough to get a variation of bad guys, right? But I never think about it too much. In Denmark, we don't divide it into bad guys and good guys. We tend to look at them as complex characters, and So they might have a point, some of the bad guys, and some of our heroes might have some flaws. So I think they go hand in hand to a degree.
And you enjoy as an actor exercising both those muscles, as the noble guy and the bad guy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you showed a clip of the first film, The Promised Land. I mean, yeah, he might be the hero, but then again, he's complicating everything. So it's complex, right?
Yeah. We should speak about another iconic character, Hannibal. Those fantastic suits, fantastic food. It's an incredible and terrifying series. And you've started in Danish television as well. Could you tell us about that process of developing a character over the course of a number of seasons?
Oh, it's a different animal completely. I mean, we have 2 hours to create a character and start a story, get to the middle and wrap it up when we do a film. Now we had 3 years, you know, and it kept growing on us. He came up with new ideas, and it depending on what kind of TV show you have. I mean, some of the cops shows you will see are fundamentally the character will not change. This is what they do, and then they solve some crime, right? They have a little issues on back home, but that's it, right? Hannibal is very different. He can do whatever the writer wants him to do because he's a chameleon. He will adapt to any situation to get maximum out of it for himself. So that was interesting. I could just open the next month's script, and I was completely insanity I was doing. But I didn't really question it because there was a reason why he was doing it. He doesn't follow a normal psychological pattern like a normal character would do.
And in terms of your level of enjoyment, cinema and television, do you prefer one or the other?
Oh, it's a tough choice. I mean, I am a film person, but I mean, in case of Hannibal, it was absolutely fantastic to dive into that character for 3 years. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would be hesitant to do more TV because it might not be as interesting for me once I've done that. But you should never say never.
One of your more recent roles in the cinema is, of course, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Yeah. And just talking about the time in the 80s when you were watching films like everyone else, and films meant so much.
Yeah.
Was it really significant for you to play in this legendary series of films? Were you a big fan of the early films?
Yeah. I mean, the first one, it blew us away, my generation. A lot of my colleagues, especially, a lot of my director friends were inspired by that first film to become directors. It's so charming, it's so elegant, and it's an adventure tale. Harrison Ford is perfect. There was just something magical about those two first films. So, yes, I grew up with them, and then 30-odd years later, I was in one of them, so that was also a very surreal journey. And it was important for another reason, because one of my friends, a week before I got the offer, he was writing down all the franchises I'd been doing.
Right.
And then the last thing he wrote was actually, but you haven't done this, and he showed me Indiana Jones. And then a week later, I got the call. So he got a text message really fast. Yeah.
Working with Harrison Ford, how was that?
Absolutely fantastic. There's a reason why he's a legend. There's many reasons why he's a legend, and one of the key reasons is that he doesn't behave like one. He's just a fantastic person to be with, and super funny, super energetic. You can almost feel full of shame yourself sometimes when you came in tired, because he would come in 80 years old, ton of energy, as if it's the first film he's doing. And this is the way we have to remember what a luxury it is to be in a film. And he just kept coming in with that energy every day.
Brilliant. I want to speak to you about some directors.
Let's do it.
Over the course of your career, you've worked with the most prominent Danish directors, of course, Nicholas Winding Refn, Susanne Bier, Thomas Vinterberg, and others. And maybe this is an unfair question, but is there any one director that you think you had a particular affinity with?
It is a very unfair question. Yeah. I try to make them all equally important. Everything I do is the most important thing. The next thing I do is the most important thing in my job. It will be the best film in history. That's the goal. Luckily, we never achieved that, so we get another chance. No, I mean there are obviously things that's been very highly important for me, like stepping stones in the career, meeting this guy or doing this film. I'm not going to compare oranges and apples. Everything has created my career. Everyone has been part of that. So they are, if not equally important, I love them equally.
Okay. So following on from that, of the current generation of directors, not necessarily Danish, is there anyone whose work that you consistently admire, that you've not worked with, that you have a strong desire to work with?
Yeah, that would be, as I mentioned yesterday, Scorsese was an eye-opener for me as a young man. The films I tended to see, and most of us tended to see, I did not grow up with French films. I grew up with American films, right? And that was, as you mentioned, that was a bad guy and a good guy. And then there was a fight, and the good guy won. And that was the films we were watching, and they could have been done more or less elegantly, but we were sucked into that world. Then I watched Taxi Driver. I had no idea what I was watching. There was a character that I didn't like him. And then I liked him. Then I hated him. Then I liked him again. And I went out of the movie theater super confused and had many more questions than answers. And then later on it dawned on me, oh yes, that's what you can do with a film. Don't give us the result, but open up a door and intrigue us, right? Yeah. Why are we watching this guy? Why do we all of a sudden feel sympathy for him after an hour or something? Well, he's obviously insane, you know. And that was just an eye-opener for me, and I've tried to achieve that with all characters. Obviously, they're not going to be Taxi Driver characters, all of them, but that dualism of not just giving you a solid answer of good or bad, but something more complex. And so Martin Scorsese would be the short answer. And he had an era there with well, obviously Robert De Niro. They did magnificent films. So give me a call, Marty.
We hope it happens, and very soon. One of the most exuberant and delightful scenes of your career is obviously the final scene of Another Round, the Oscar-winning film. A slightly crazy film about a group of school teachers who conduct an experiment based on the theory that the human body has an inbuilt alcohol deficiency, and that a little boost could lead to more confidence and inspiration in life. And this goes well for some time and then not so well. But let's have a look at the final scene and then we'll talk about it.
It sounds as if you'd rather have me become a dancer again.
I want to talk about the film a bit first, and then we're going to talk about that scene in particular. But in preparation for the film, well, firstly, you all made the very wise decision not to actually drink on set and do this in real life. But you did have a drinking boot camp in preparation for the film.
Yeah, we did.
Tell us how that went.
Fantastic. We didn't have the boot camp because we needed to know how it was to become drunk. We had a fairly good idea of that, all of us. We did the boot camp because we wanted to be very specific about the very specific levels they were testing out. So we had a scene that we will go through with no alcohol. We will drink one, we'll do the same scene. We'll drink two, we'll do the same scene, and so forth. And nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened, we thought. So we watched the video the day after, and it was like, whoa. And you could see the little details, their hands just getting their own lives, people not listening anymore. All of a sudden, somebody had a monologue that was not in here, you know. So it was very healthy to know those little things we could scale up and down on, right? When it came to like the completely hammered drunk, we just watched YouTube of Russian people, and we got inspired there, and we found a tactic because it's kind of like the middle drunk is fairly okay to do, because the secret to that is to try to hide that you're drunk. You're getting hyper focused. You walk a little stiffer. You're very focused on what you're doing. You know, it becomes a little too much, but you're trying to hide it. Once you're completely drunk, you don't care anymore. But you still have a job. You always have a mission that is so insane that you know, somebody trying to put a big animal on a bicycle, really, really drunk, and they keep doing it for 2 hours. It's just like, stop it now. You know, so that's where we got inspired from. Right? So yeah, that was a boot camp. Was that the question?
Yeah. That was the question. Of course, we see this wonderful scene, and we know in your former life you're a gymnast and a dancer.
Yeah, it's the same life, though.
Yeah. I want to know, does that still have a lingering impact or influence on your presence on screen, on your poise, do you think?
I'm sure it does. I mean, everything we did before is with us somehow, right? Yeah, I mean, it comes in handy here. When I do stunts, it comes in handy that I was a gymnast. Obviously, it's getting more and more difficult. You get more and more injured. And you don't get more injured. It just takes forever to get rid of it, right? So yeah, it comes in handy, but I don't think too much about it. I'm always aware whether a character is fast, slow, heavy, or light in my mind. So it's part of a character to have the physical aspect, I guess. Yeah.
And this brilliant last scene, it had a great deal of emotional resonance. There's a sort of bittersweet element to the scene.
Yeah.
Thomas Winterberger said it's the most memorable day of shooting he's ever done. Tell us about the construction of this shooting day and why it was so emotionally important.
We did it over 2 days. So I don't know how many times we danced. There was a lot of reasons why. It was a complex scene with a lot of extras. And, it was important for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the background history, which I'm not going to dive into now because it's very difficult to talk about. But there was a relief in the scene and in the film for a lot of reasons, and it just culminated that day. And also the fact that he got to see me do it was very important for him because I had been very adamant about not doing it. Right. I didn't like the scene. I hated it.
You didn't want the film to end this way, or you didn't want the scene at all?
I didn't like the scene. I thought it was out of context. This was a hyper-realistic film, and all of a sudden, like, who starts dancing like that? I was trying to persuade him that it should be, maybe it's his drunken fantasy. He sees himself do this, and then in reality, he was just falling around, right? And Thomas was just nodding and listening and saying, no, just shut up and do the fucking scene, you know. And I gave up, and boy was he right, and I was completely wrong. It's an absolute fantastic ending of a film. So good thing he didn't listen to me.
We're going to take your questions now, everybody.
Yeah. Audience.
And we're going to ask you to wait for a microphone, if there are some. Over there, if you're very eager. Go ahead. Once you get a microphone.
But maybe we can we hear you? Maybe we can hear you without.
Okay, I'm going to try to speak louder.
On y va.
Okay. I'm really trying to be calm. Thank you very much. Well, I had a theater teacher that taught us by using scenes from your movies, from Robert De Niro movies, and what I thought of your performances, that was that your face is just really there are so many plates. Layers, exactly, layers. But my personal question is, so your mother language is not English. Now I am in the same situation.
Yeah.
I'm basically a Bulgarian speaker, but then I'm in front of a language barrier, and I cannot act.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. So is there a tip, advice I can give you?
Yes.
I've done quite a few films in different languages. None of them I speak, or at least not fluently. I don't speak English fluently either, but it's becoming more and more part of my language now. So the trick was, the first time I did anything in English was to, rehearse it, and then once you shoot the scene, that's it, it's over. Don't think about it anymore. If there are mistakes, if people out there are going, oh my God, what an accent, so be it. That's all I could do until now. Forget it once you get in there and focus on the scene. The language will stick with you. You rehearse it again and again. It's there somewhere. But you cannot be on stage or in front of the camera focusing on the language anymore. So that would be my very best advice. And the worst case scenario is that you can fix it later on in the ADR sessions, right? So I've approached it the same way with French and Swedish and German, that I rehearse it, if it's a language I don't speak, extremely much. And then I don't think about it once I start acting. And then you have to ally yourself with directors who accept that. If they anticipate a perfect language with no accent whatsoever, you should tell them to go and find someone else.
I don't know if this is working. Oh,
Yes,
great.
It is.
Thank you so much for, obviously, your work and for being here. It's so inspiring. I wanted to ask you, what's your ideal experience with a director, not specifically about one director, but from rehearsing, from reading the script, from the first reading through the shoot? What is your ideal experience?
It can be many things. As I said in the beginning, I don't have to agree with the director, but I have to be able to communicate. Meaning that there will be layers of things I cannot see in the story that she or he will persuade me are there. That's idyllic. That's what we're going for, that I also get surprised. Sometimes it's so obvious what the story is, and we're both on the same page, and from there on, it's just about how to approach it. But the communication between you and your director is absolutely vital. Are you students? A lot of you are students in here?
Thank you so much. First of all, I have a question, but I'll first of all want to thank you for, first of all, gracing us with your presence and coming to Morocco. I am personally a huge fan, and earlier you were talking about actors such as Harrison Ford and how he achieved a legendary status. But I also think that you achieved that kind of status as well on your merits. So thank you again for coming in. So on to my question. So we've talked about a lot of your characters, a lot of the roles you played, but also one specific role that wasn't given a lot of attention was actually in a video game called Death Stranding, where you played as a character called Cliffhanger. And I wanted to ask you, how was it like to play that kind of character in this specific setting, like playing obviously with other actors such as Guillermo del Toro, etc., and like of course working with Mr. Kojima. So how is it like, acting in a video game basically?
Yeah, it's a video game called Death Stranding by Hideo Kojima. It's a very different thing. There was no solid script, but he had a lot of drawings and graphic things. He was trying to explain to us how the game worked and how you could manipulate the characters. And me and Normus Reedus, we were just blank. We had no idea what he was talking about. So we threw our lives into his hands because we knew he was a genius at what he was doing. He wanted us to act, do little scenes, little sequences, and we were wearing this green suit with dots in our faces and a camera on the head. And these cameras always tangled up when you got close to each other, and was mayhem. And every time we did something like that, we wanted to shoot again, and Hideo was like, no, it's perfect. I can fix that later. We forgot it was a animated thing, right? It was surreal, but it was also funny because it was the first time that I did not have a clue what the story was. And I just threw myself out in his hands, and turned out to be fruitful. It was a beautiful game, and he's a brilliant, brilliant man.
We're going to take a question at the back, right at the far back. Yes. With the green shirt on, yes.
Hi. I first would like to congratulate you for your wonderful and talented and extensive career that you have. So I'm an actor, and my question is, when you're building characters, and let's say you have similar characters, let's take villains, for example, do you trust your process with the scenario and that your body is automatically going to create different characters? Or does it happen to you that you think, okay, maybe I don't want to do this so that the audience doesn't have an impression of déjà vu? Does it happen to you?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It is very difficult not to repeat yourself as an actor or in life. It's a very, very difficult thing. Sometimes the genre will do some of the work for you. Sometimes the story will. Sometimes the character will. But there will always be traces of you in there. And I can say the same when I watch De Niro playing Raging Bull or Taxi Driver. I see him in there, but they're very, very different characters, right? I try to approach it from the story side. I'm not going to go completely away from something I've done before just to serve myself. If that's right for the story, I don't mind going there again if that's the best thing for the story. But I tend to try to find things that are not completely matches. So there's a little different energy or physicality or brutality or fragility. It can be many things. There is one process I tend to do a lot. I've discovered that recently, which is I recognize something the character has that I also have. I recognize that in myself. It might be a very small part of me, or it might be a bigger part of me. But what I do is I throw all the other sides of me away. Everything else that is me goes away. And then I just make that part bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually it becomes something I recognize, but it's not me. So that is a process I've been using quite a bit.
I'm going to take a question on this side.
Hi. Hi. I'm a movie grad and I currently work as a cultural journalist. I needed to know, do you agree that art must upset? And if so, as an actor, where do you draw the line? Like, are there roles that you would never overtake? Or do you believe that if a script is well written, you can tackle any role? Thank you.
That art should upset or stir up things. It can and it cannot. I mean, I would say there is a lot of music that does not upset me, and I think it's art. It's not a goal in itself to upset people or upset things. I think the goal is to throw up questions and make people think. But not necessarily always. Sometimes you can also just do something that is really nice to look at or listen to, right? I tend to seek towards the more complex or sometimes provoking things because I think it's an interesting area. But that doesn't mean that all art has to be like that.
We're going to take the question first from the gentleman in the striped shirt just behind, and then you, sir.
Pleasure having you here, Mr. MIKKELSEN.
Just a second.
I think
Please go ahead.
Let's get a
Go ahead.
microphone out here.
Hello, my name is Paul. I have 20 years old. I have one question is how do you believe cinema has the potential to shift societal perspective on mental disabilities, and what role do you think filmmakers, including yourself, can play in fostering understanding and empathy in this look? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's a very interesting question. Thank you. The question is, so what responsibility do we have as actors when it comes to portray disabilities, etc.? I can't remember the entire question. I think we have the responsibility as actors with that, as we have with any other characters in life. We have to embrace the personality of the individual we're bringing to life. That we shouldn't look at it as a specific thing. It's a little like the sexuality, the skin color, the disability is not the important thing. It's the personality of a character. And so I think our responsibility is to treat it exactly like you would treat any other character you will deal with.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Good to have you here, Mr. MIKKELSEN. Yeah. So one of the reasons, I'm a fan of yours is I truly believe that you are a very serious actor. You take your roles very seriously. A perfect example is Lucas in The Hunt. So my question is, after the film is wrapped up and you go back home, what does MIKKELSEN do to go back psychologically to Mads Mikkelsen? I mean, after investing so much in playing an actor, getting under their skin. So, do you have a process to go back to you? Thank you.
Yeah, my process is not super difficult. I'm like everyone else, can have a good day at the job, and then I will bring that home. Or I can have a bad day at the job, I will bring that home. I try not to let the character be part of that. I mean, I have to leave the character as soon as possible. That doesn't mean that, like the scene in the church, we did it the entire day. That doesn't mean it's just gone when we say thank you for today. That rubs off a little, but it's not the character. It's just, you spending 8 hours in that emotion. That it takes you a little while just to throw it away. But I really, really do not believe in bringing a character back home. I don't believe in the idea that your family and your children has to call you a different name. I just find it insane. I don't understand what it is. Some actors who does that are fantastic. Some who does that are terrible. So it's not there. That's not the key. I'll jump into the character as fast as I can. I'll try to leave it as fast as I can. The experience is a different thing. That can stay a little longer.
Hello. I've seen people ask some very serious questions, and I'm here with a few.
You have a funny one.
Shoot. Well, okay. I have a few questions. One is which is more enjoyable, sitting in a makeup chair for hours or doing mocap with other people in a motion capture suit for a while?
Doing mocap.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, makeup. God bless all the wonderful makeup people I worked with, but for me, it's like spending time in an elevator. I'm just too impatient for that, and some of the stuff I've done has taken hours. So, so sorry, all my lovely makeup people, but I'm an impatient person.
I have another short question, and it's something that I struggled with. I'm in film school, and one of the things that we shot for an exercise, I was the one acting in it, and watching it back was the most uncomfortable thing I had to sit through. And
did you watch it alone, or did you watch it together with a lot?
No, I watched it with the whole class.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So how does it how did you get used to watching yourself on the screen with a ton of people in the cinema?
I don't know really. Actually, the first thing I ever did, the Pusher film we showed a clip of, I couldn't come to the premiere, so I went in a couple of weeks later and saw it by myself. And that was a little weird, but then after a while I forgot it and I was watching a film. That's the best way to approach it. Just if you're watching a film, all of a sudden you're probably on the right direction somehow, right? But don't look at details. Don't look at your face. Don't look at, oh, I should have done that differently. See, if you forget yourself and kind of be captured by the emotion of the scene as an audience, you're on the right track. It doesn't matter how you look on the screen.
I have 2 more questions.
Go for it.
Really short ones. Really short ones.
No, sure.
This one is just silly. How did Dr. Zoller age so gracefully in 20 years in Indiana Jones 4?
Dr. Fuller?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they ran out of money, so they couldn't really do any computer stuff on me, I guess.
Thank you. I won't ask
You
the
got
last
it.
question.
I think there's some very sweet people in front that have been got their hand on
Go
top of
ahead.
it.
Hi.
Hello.
So my question is being famous is something that really makes you sometimes change your real personality around people, or make you sometimes feel lost? That's my question.
Good question. Being famous is a tricky thing. It's gonna sound a little pretentious, but when I was younger, fame was not like a goal that we were chasing by itself. It was, we knew there were famous people, but that was not a goal in itself. I know it's a very different thing with the younger generation now because of social media, and it's more accessible, and it becomes a goal by itself. So that's not why we started acting. We wanted to do funny and crazy and interesting things. Then all of a sudden you could become famous, and that was a surprise. And it's a surprise you can never undo that. It's happened, that's it. So if I buy a Coca-Cola back home, I either get it like this, here you are, sir, or they throw it in my face. You know, there's no neutral Coca-Cola for me anymore. And you just have to live with that, and I'm fairly good at forgetting stuff, so I walk out of the door and I forget it every day until somebody stops me. And that's the only way you can do it. If not, you just run around and you're super paranoid. Yeah.
Let's take the question next to last one.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Moswami, and I am happy. I have 3 questions. And the number 1 is, are you considering other projects outside the world of the cinematography compared to the future? The number 2, what was your best professional project? And number 3, what do you think of the cinema today? Thank you very much.
What was the second one?
Okay, the second, what was one of your best professional projects? Yeah.
One of my next projects?
Yeah.
Best.
One of my favorite I've done.
No, your best professional project.
That I have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So first one, do I have other plans? Yes, I have other plans. I am waiting on a phone call from FC Barcelona. I want to play for them, and I don't think it's too late. Plan 1. One of my best. Again, I'm not gonna pick like thingies. I mean, obviously, Thomas Vinterberg has meant a lot to me, and so has Anders Thomas Jensen, and so has Nicholas Winding Refn, and so has Susanne Bier, etc. One film that not a lot of people have seen that meant a lot to me, because we were like a generation that was famous for being super naturalistic on films, and all of a sudden we did something insanely theatrical. It's a film called The Green Butchers. And I love that film, and for me it was just a big step of doing something completely different and be brave enough to go there. And the third one was what do I see the future of film? Well, the future of film, hopefully it's on a big screen, but I don't mind the smaller screen. I'm not one of these who say it's either or. I mean, I think they have to work together, inspire each other. I do believe the big screen will always be here because people tend to want to see things together and experience stuff together.
Okay, we have very little time left. We'll take the question here.
Hi, I'm so nervous right now.
Don't be nervous.
Actually, I have no question. I'm sorry. I just want to say I love you, and I'm so honored.
See, you see that's the best question I had today.
You know, I'm just wanna experience having this small talk with the great Mads. Thank you so much for being here. It's one of my best experience in life. Thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you so much. You're very, very sweet. Thank you.
We'll take a question down here.
Hello. I just wanted to say, playing Hannibal Lecter after Anthony Hopkins must have been difficult, but you seem to have such a deep understanding of the character. Was it easy playing him? Did you have a certain approach?
The Hannibal Lecter was obviously done to perfection by Anthony Hopkins. So what we have to realize, which is everybody goes, can that be true? Anthony Hopkins had 14 minutes of screen time. That was it. And he had that enormous impact on us. I, on the other hand, I have hours after hours. So I knew it was a different kind of character we were doing here. We could spend more time with him. We didn't have to show everything. So for that reason, I said yes. If not, if I was going down the path of what Anthony Hopkins did, I wouldn't have done it because I wouldn't be able to copy that. He was just brilliant in that.
Go ahead.
Hi. Here. I was wondering what brings acting in your life in general, and why are you do that? That's all.
Yeah, what does it bring to me? Yeah. I don't know. I'm still waiting to see what it does. I mean, for me, I didn't have it as a dream when I was a kid. It sounds a little spoiled, and maybe it is spoiled. I didn't dream of becoming a dancer. It just happened. I didn't dream of becoming an actor. It just happened. I really literally was only doing sports when I was young. That was my only plan, my only goal. Then this happened, and it turned out that I was better at that than sport. So I stuck with it for a while, and I'm still here. It gives me the fantastic joy of meeting an insane amount of fantastic different people, from behind the camera, in front of the camera, to people like you, the audience. It's a very privileged job. No one day is the same. And if you are curious, this is the job for everyone. Yeah.
Okay, who has the best last question? Only keep your hand up if you have a great question. Okay, you seem insistent, sir. It better be good.
I want to say I love you very much, Mr.
That's been
Mr.
done.
Mads. I am my favorite actors, and welcome in Morocco. Welcome in your home.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. A question. Look at the beautiful woman down there.
Okay.
That's a question. I can see there's a question.
Okay, go ahead. There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, thank you for being here, and we're really honored to be having a conversation with you. My question is, have you ever rejected a casting call, and what was the reason of that rejection? Was it the character, the script? Was it not good? I mean...
Yeah, there's been a few things I've rejected to do a casting on, and one would be that I didn't like the story, and I couldn't imagine that the director could persuade me there was more interesting stuff in there. And then when it comes to casting, yeah, I went to America in the beginning after I did the Bond film, and I did some castings over there. And they started to become more and more humiliating. It's a tough process, casting. The thing is that casting is wonderful for the opportunity for new faces to be seen. But you need a scene. You need something you can do. And a lot of these casting situations, there were no scene. It was just you in a room, and you pretended you had the enormous long arms in a Fantastic Four movie. and you don't have it, and it just became humiliating. There was no dialogue, no situation, no nothing. And I think, at least for any young actors or casting directors out there, at least you can bring the actors a little scene so they feel that they produced something. So that would be a reason I will turn it down today as well.
Okay, we're going to take the very last question. It's right at the front here.
Hi there. So I don't have any question. You already had enough, okay? I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday since it was like 2 days or 3 days ago. And you're aging like a fine wine. That's it.
Thank you. Listen, thank you so much. It was 2 days ago, yeah. I turned 28. Can you imagine? Listen, guys, that was the last question. I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to wish you all the best of luck, all the future filmmakers out there, and the ones who's already doing it.